Okay, here with Rob. Rob, Bath weekend. First of all, just wonder, team news-wise, injuries-wise, it's the weekly debuts question, I suppose. How's he doing?
Yeah, debuts is really close. He's been running around. He's done pretty much 4 weeks training, just as we are in his end stage now. I mean, we could say there's a push to get him available this weekend. That's how close we feel we are. But at the same time, this is his first full loading, doing everything, doing the contact, doing everything, and we will need to see how his reaction goes to this week if we're going to be, manage it really, really well. But I would like to think we'll get some game time out of him now in the upcoming Anglo-Welsh competition.
Phil Dollman's hand, it's still strapped up, but he's not too far away, is he?
No, again, Phil's very similar to Dave in that he's had a 4 weeks training this week. Again, we probably feel it's a little early to chuck him into the Bath game, but he's going to be in and around and involved with the match kind of 25. And again, we would like to think he'll be playing next week.
Any fresh concerns?
Yeah, obviously Julian Salvi's got a bicep injury. We're still waiting to learn the full extent of that, but that's looks a relatively serious one.
Really? So we're talking possibly surgery?
Probably surgery. We're not. He's not going to be available this weekend, and then it'll be a bit see how the surgery goes to give us a defining timeline.
Well, probably if he has surgery, it's not really this side of Christmas, really.
No, I wouldn't think it would be.
What would you miss? Because since he's come to the club, from an outsider looking in, he seems to bring a lot of leadership skills, and he seems to be somebody that everybody kind of looks up to in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first and foremost is I think his biggest quality is that his consistency. He turns up every week, and even when we've had some poor performances, and even when some individuals within the side have played poorly, if you actually look at Jules' contribution, it's always been absolutely first rate. I think that's what it is. His level of intensity that he can bring consistently week in, week out is absolutely first rate. He's he's virtually always our top tackler, virtually always our top clear out guy, and probably the thing that people don't appreciate about Jules is how important he is to our attack. I think a lot of people talk about open sides as being tacklers and defenders and destructive people, but Jules is very important to our attack because he clears so many breakdowns. So he does put in a huge contribution over every 80 minutes, and that's probably what we'll miss the most.
It seems they come in tranches, don't they? You've got obviously Don Armand out as well. I mean, you've got a lot of cover in that area of the park, but nonetheless, they all seem to come at once, don't they?
Yeah, and I think going forward now, I mean, we have played games without Jules in there when we've looked at playing a different back row, a bigger back row, or whatever for various reasons, or who's available, or to give Jules a break, and normally that performs very well for us as well. I mean, we went along. We put in some really big performances at the start of last season. I remember with a big back row without what you describe as a specialist open side in there. So it's not something that I'm overly worried about. Obviously, I would like a completely fully fit squad to select from, as every coach would. But you've just got to roll with the punches and get out there, and we'll get a good 23 on the pitch, or they've got to go and fight very hard.
A few players called up to international squads, Henry in particular to the England squad. That must be a good confidence boost for him to kind of ensure that he's there or thereabouts come the autumn international.
Yeah, well, Henry's going well. He's probably a bit like a lot of other guys in the side, is that he knows there's a bit more in him, and he knows there's a bit more in the team, and we're fighting to make that happen. And I thought he was very, very good over at Ulster. Really composed in a lot of what he did, defended very well, good, strong around the breakdown area. Had a real bit of fight about him. Was one of those good examples of how hard we were prepared to fight over in Ulster against a very good side. And I think we'll see Henry and the team. I'd like to think we see Henry and the team improve bit by bit. We're going to take lots of little steps over this season. We haven't talked about that all of a sudden there needs to be some miracle, because sport isn't like that. What we've got to be prepared to do is work very hard and take lots of little steps, and that counts for the individuals as well as us as a team.
And obviously Thomas and Moray in your front row going off to their various nations as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. You want to have international quality players in the club. They're two perfect examples of it. I think Murray's gone very well, and after having limited game time early on, I think timing for him's been perfect, and that's helped him push his way into that Scotland squad. Tom, obviously, as again with the issues earlier on in the season, had a bit less game time than he probably would have liked. But again, he's kind of getting up there now, and he's starting to play. And again, I think he'll go off and he'll enjoy his time in Wales.
Although the result wasn't what you wanted at Ulster, you talked after the match about the performance being at a standard that you were much more happier with compared to the week before. What have you taken from that week into this week's training ahead of the Bath game?
Oh, just really that we just talked about keeping a level of personal and team intensity, and it's like I said, people sometimes think strange. Like we haven't really had any issues at the club with the players.
No.
It isn't like we've been battling with them to get onto the training field. People haven't been turning up late. It's not, we haven't had issues like that. We haven't had guys in the wrong kit or just missing out and pretending they're ill. We haven't had any discipline issues. I haven't been walking around the club for 8 weeks or 9 weeks or through pre-season going, come on, get on with it. It's not been like that. But we've just had not lost. We just haven't been training or performing with a little bit of edge.
A bit of a haze around it.
Potentially, maybe a little bit of an anticipation that things will click and that things will go well. And if we run within patterns and we run within systems and we're accurate with our calling, that will do it. And to be fair, you look at our results and it gets you pretty close. So that's what I'd like to think, is that we haven't had quite the intensity we would have liked. We haven't had quite the intensity we would need, but we've been pretty close. So if we can add like a few percentage of intensity and just that little bit more fight to what we're doing, then we've got the ingredients of being a very, very good side. And I think the Ulster game is a perfect example. If Stino's drop goal goes over at the end, that could get viewed in a lot of ways as a huge European win for any side. Not just for Exeter, but for any team to go there against an Ulster team under a little bit of pressure on an evening and with a sellout crowd. That kind of thing. That would be a huge European win. I'm not going to say it would have been a perfect game of rugby, or for an impartial viewer, someone who would have gone, I didn't see many tries, I didn't see much flowing rugby, but there wasn't a person in that stadium who was leaving. That was an intense game of Champions Cup rugby, and as I said, went right down to the wire. That would have been a fantastic win, and that kind of shows you how close we are when we fight and we're intense. Yes, you always want to add accuracy, but first and foremost you start with the foundations of being a little bit angry and a bit intense, and that's what we asked the players for. We kept it pretty simple going over to Ulster. Let's see what we're about as men first, and then we'll deal with the other bits on top. And that bit we stood up, and I couldn't have asked for any more of the players. And I said to them in the changing room afterwards, just like I said in the press, they were hurting for the right reasons. They were hurting because they'd gone flat out into a game of rugby and they'd come up short and lost. And it hurts when you lay it all on the line and you come up short, but it doesn't hurt as much as not laying it on the line. That's a genuine hurt that you should never really experience. And I thought that's where a bit we were after the Clermont game. And like I said, we talked about it again this week. We talked about training with intensity and making sure that we're resilient and tough and that we're prepared to just keep fighting. And those are going to be the only things we talk about for a few weeks.
Yeah.